Thomas is a cheeky little shit that thinks he's funny. He constantly makes every engine's life a living nightmare, especially Gordon, who has a bit of an ego. One day, Gordon can't take it anymore, so he gets back at Thomas by flood reporting him. Thomas decides not to mess with Gordon ever again. Edward is constantly harassed by the other engines for being a weakling, even though Edward is secretly a Giga Chad. He proves this by pushing Gordon up the biggest hill on Sodor. This hill was later named after Gordon to humiliate him. Henry is a pussy, so he hides in a tunnel so he won't get wet by the rain. The Fat Controller forces Henry's passengers to do slave labor to try to get Henry out. But it doesn't work, so they just brick him up. Gordon gets diarrhea, so Henry is let out of the tunnel so he can pull the express with Edward. Henry gets a rare illness from staying in the tunnel for so long, so now Thomas gets to pull the express, but he forgore the coaches. Edward lets Thomas pull his trucks. This was a terrible idea. A new engine named James crashes in the field, so Thomas goes to help him. And somehow he doesn't f*** it up. The Fat Controller awards him with a branch line. The new engine, James, tries to pull coaches with Edward, but in the process pisses off the Fat Controller. Then, when he tries again on his own, he causes one of the coaches to piss itself. He's put in the shed for this. James is let out of the sheds to pull some trucks. The trucks try to run away, but James is faster. Gordon accidentally takes a wrong exit, so he ends up back at Knapford too early while pulling the express. This f*** up was so bad that the Fat Controller told James to pull the express instead. Henry still has a rare illness and is late with Thomas's passengers. Thomas is so pissed that he forgores the guard. Thankfully, the guard was on his school's track team, so he was able to catch up to the train. Thomas drinks some water from the river, but then starts choking on a fish. An inspector does CPR to get the fish out of him. Thomas just barely survives. Thomas meets a tractor named Terrence and calls him ugly. A few days later, Thomas crashes into some snow, and Terrence saves him. Who's ugly now? Thomas races a bus named Bertie. Thomas wins. Gordon isn't able to turn around on the turntable properly, so he has to pull the express backwards like he's a tank engine. Then James spins right round like a record baby. After those incidents, the big engines go on strike, but the Fat Controller doesn't give a shit, so he buys a new engine named Percy. Percy gets jump-started by Gordon. Henry still has a rare illness, so the Fat Controller gives him new medication to make him feel better. Henry crashes while pulling the flying kipper, so he gets surgery. Now he doesn't need the medication anymore. Gordon's whistle starts making the worst noise imaginable, so they hit it with a hammer to fix it. Then some children that probably come from a bad family throw rocks at Henry and his coaches, so he sneezes on them. Achoo. An engine named Toby is getting his railway shut down because cars exist. Thomas is caught smoking weed, so gets in trouble with the police. However, it turns out on Sodor you're allowed to smoke weed legally if you are accompanied by a tram, so the Fat Controller buys Toby the day after his railway shuts down. Toby roasts James and he gets absolutely annihilated, so James decides to write a diss track about Toby while he's pulling some trucks. He is distracted and then crashes into some tar wagons. Toby laughs. Gordon falls into a muddy ditch while trying to run away from his responsibilities. Thomas makes fun of Gordon even though he planned never to mess with Gordon ever again, and then he falls down a mine. Gordon is sympathetic and helps him out. An old lady gets trapped in her house, so Terrence the tractor helps her escape. Oh yeah, they also have a Christmas party, but that's not important.